guys, Cal here with Supreme Lure Co. Today we're going to go over some of my favorite techniques and some of your guys' techniques that you have brought to my attention. There's a lot of different ways to fish all of our baits and a lot of different ways that I had no clue about but apparently catch a lot of fish. We have four main baits in our bass lineup. It's the slug, lil slug, slaw, and sled, and I'm going to go over those baits, different rigging, different ways to fish them, where to fish them, and kind of how they fish. Today we're obviously inside, didn't get it out in the water today, but I'm gonna do my best to explain why we use what we use and basically what makes them attract bass. So first we're gonna start off with the slug. This is my favorite bait out of the whole lineup. There's been a lot of confusion with this bait on if it's a worm or what it is. My favorite way to fish it is just on a big Texas rigged hook, 6/7 hook. The real cool thing about the slug is when it falls, it has these sharp edges. When you fish it weightless, it's got free falling action, but it doesn't just fall like a normal bait. Like the sides don't just kick out if you throw it on a Texas rig. It'll glide down and go around them pad stems, go around them reeds. And that's my favorite place to fish this. It's super weedless. It's got a built-in hook slot, which makes it even more weedless. I still Texpose it just for extra security, making sure it's not getting hung up on stuff. But basically, with this rig, think about it as a 1-2 punch to the frog. Any place you're throwing the frog, any hole in the lily pads, any big gap in a grass mat, around reeds, it does a great job at getting down inside there, but super subtly. You can take a punch rig and do the same thing, but it's not going to have the natural, free-flowing action that the weightless slug will. Right now, all of our baits are made with the same durable, stretchy, slow sink plastic. So they're not gonna sink straight to the bottom. They're not gonna stay at the top of the water column. They get a slow sink down right to the bottom. And fishing it weightless, you know, this hook gives it enough weight that it'll still find the bottom. You just have to give it some time. Here's the other option for rigging it weightless Texas rig. It's just a screw lock, and then it's got a little stopper on the bottom to keep it straight. Rigging it straight is super important. If it gets a kink in it, a bow in it, or the back's all humped, it's not gonna have the same action. The other thing you can do with this style of hook is if you get a weighted one, you know, if you wanna fish deeper in the water column, if you wanna fish weed lines with it, that's great. I just prefer the shallow slop option, but a lot of guys haven't even found that yet, and they've found that the weighted screw lock does a lot better for them. To each of their own. I'm not set on brands. I'm not even set on style of hooks. If you guys have a better way to do it, I'd love to know. But this is not set in stone at all. There's a million different ways to fish these. These are just the most popular options. I brought up fishing weed lines in that last technique. This is the absolute weed line killer. This is just on a little jig head. A lot of people call it jig worm up here in Minnesota. If you're fishing lakes that it's a super good weed line bite, they're always out there on the weed line, like a Minnetonka or something of that sort. This is one of the most deadly setups you can throw. I'm not just saying that. Obviously, this bait has been redesigned over the course of years, but it's that shape with that length has won so many tournaments on some of the most big pressured lakes. I'm not a big weed line guy, but it gets bit, and it's super simple to do. Now we're going to venture down into the slug's little brother. This is the lil slug. Same exact profile. Comes in at 4 1/4 inches, I believe. Just a lot smaller, a lot more finesse, still a ton of different ways to rig it. One of my favorites is just on a ball head jig. Rigging it this way, it does have that flutter action down, but it's still got a different action than just a round Senko. It's still gonna catch the sides of the water and grab a little bit better, so it has a little more action as it falls. Use any weight you want. You can basically just substitute your normal Senko, whatever you use for it, for this, and you'll change it up. The fish aren't used to seeing something that falls a little bit more erratic. They're used to seeing the same thing that sells everywhere in stores. Back to the jig worm deal. Same thing with the lil slug. On both of these, I like to just cut off the head just a little bit, just so it fits up flush with that jig head. Whatever jig head you decide to choose, same thing. You're basically swapping this out with your normal curly tail worm, whatever you're used to using for it. Same action as the big slug, just in a smaller finesse profile. This is one of my favorite spring techniques that I've found. I haven't fished it a whole lot in the summertime for whatever reason, just because I find out about something and I forget about it as soon as I figure it out. But the Nika rig is such a deadly It is a summertime deal. I was catching them early springtime, right around opener. Like I said earlier, it's a slow sink plastic that our baits are formulated out of. So it'll still sink, but it's gonna have a longer time sinking. And with that little Nico weight, which you can use any weight you want or a nail, it's still gonna stand up just like this. So that chartreuse tail is gonna stand straight up and just wiggle in front of that bass's mouth. You can throw it on the weedless Nico hook. It really doesn't matter what hook it is. The most important deal in this is having some sort of weight on the bottom. Same sort of deal as the jig worm deal, but I like this because I feel like I can fish it in more places and it fits my fishing style a little better. But this is a killer option. This is one of my favorites. This is right up there with the weightless Texas rig slug. I'm gonna get some kickback from some of my sponsor guys for this one, but this has been an absolute sleeper this year and the last couple of years. A lot of guys are starting to drop shot the lil slug, and they're doing it in ways that I would have never imagined. There's a lot of guys out there on, I'm just gonna say big, clear, smallmouth lakes that have been absolutely crushing them on just a drop shot lil slug. And the way that they're doing it is they're using a smaller drop shot weight than what they normally would. They're going from like a ½ ounce to 3/4 ounce back down to like 1/4 ounce lighter stuff, and they're pulling it up. And like I said earlier, the slug's got those sharp edges on it. When it falls down, it has that same flutter action. And being that it's a slow sink plastic, it's still gonna hover in that strike zone a long time. But it seems like the fish are keying in on it even before it gets to that point. It's just the slow flutter down action that the slug is known for that gets them to bite. Alright, I know I got a bunch of jig guys that watch our videos and use our products, and we love all them guys. The Slaw is an incredible jig trailer. It's so versatile, you can fish it on any jig you want. I got a few options here that kind of cover the whole gamut. This is a bigger flipping jig. I like to just bite down just the nose on it, so I still leave the little flapping arms on top. And then obviously you got the big flappers on the back. Again, slow sink plastic. It's not gonna stand straight up, but whatever jig you're using, if it's got a flat bottom on it, it'll follow that bottom. So like this one's kind of turned up with a little angle. It's gonna sit up just like that. If you're dragging something, it's gonna sit right on the bottom as it should. Even though I am the owner of this company, I will say that it is some of the most durable plastic. It's not a Lastech, but I have caught 28 pounds, I think. I think it was like 5 bass for 28 pounds on one slaw, and the slaw was still in good condition. Obviously, sometimes plastics just rip. Bass don't get a good grip on it. They don't get the whole thing in their mouth. They just get a tail. It's gonna break. But I'll put this up there against any other, big manufacturer plastic. Again, with the jig, we just got a smaller finesse one. This one right here is a Keitech finesse tungsten jig. It's obviously got a small profile, small head, and I like to bite it down just below the little arms that flap. That way it gives it a nice small profile. If you're chasing after smallmouth on the rocks, or you're chasing after just finesse-y bass, it's a great option, great profile. Mimics a sunfish, crappie, crayfish, whatever you're going after, whatever they're eating. It's got it dialed. Sticking with the jig stuff, this is just a non-skirted football head jig. The only reason I picked this one out was just so you can see the slaw on it. If you're dragging a bait, those little pinches are still gonna kick. If you lift it up, if you're jigging it, they're gonna kick on the way up, they're gonna kick on the way down. Everything that you want your jig trailer to do, it's gonna do it. And the last one, the slaw, is one of the easiest rigging, one of the techniques that everyone knows. Just a Texas rig slaw. Throw whatever weight you want on it, 1/4 ounce, doesn't matter. You can do some punching with it, throw it around docks. That one's standard. The reason I'm blowing through this is because I got a little sneaky technique. So if you rig it on a just weightless like this, I already said that they're slow sink, but if you reel it fast enough, rod tip up, you don't have to burn it, but just to keep it on the surface, those tails will kick the entire time that it's up there, and it'll do the same thing as a horny toad or any other topwater plastic. I don't do that a ton, but I've gotten some really good bites thrown around places that you would throw any other topwater. It is super fun, super cool, and you don't have to go out and change your plastics. You can just load up on slaws and have anything you need from the top of the water column to the bottom. So the last bait I'm going to cover here, it's our newest bait in our lineup, and it's called the Sled. It comes in at, I believe, 3 inches. It's formulated with the same plastic. For now, we're working on getting a floating soft blend. Not out quite yet, but I still enjoy the way that these fish. Obviously, it's a smaller profile, built just like a bait fish. It's your typical Ned drop shot. So right now I just got it on a drop shot hook. It's still gonna sit right there in the water column. Just keep your line tight, and it's got nice subtle movement. The reason that we did it the way that we did, sticking with the same plastic, is just to keep it a little more subtle. Ton of drop shot baits out there, and they all, everything has its time and place. And for what we were going for, with the subtleness of it, I think we nailed it. And I fished the crap out of it this year, and it's done everything I wanted it to. And I've enjoyed finding different ways to rig it. So like I said, drop shot, Ned. The other one that's been kind of a sleeper that I haven't told a lot of people about is throwing it on a ball head jig. So obviously the ball head is, a new buzzword this year, live scoping, whatever, minnow baits. What I really enjoy about this setup is the firmer plastic of the Sled really counteracts the ball head super well. So to be fishing that, and it's obviously more of a subtle action, and the bait will pretty much follow what the ball head does. It's not going to sit there and wag too much, and it's not going to counterreact that action. So it's super great for hovering right in front of fish, throwing it around rocks. You can even drag it. It'll lay nice. But like I said, we're working on a new soft plastic for this. It might be out by the time this video comes out. We have it. I've played with it. It's super awesome. I'm super excited to bring it to you guys. And we might be messing around with it in the Little Slug too for all you drop shotters that have been doing that. But still in the works. We're working on it. We're always working on new things for you guys. You guys give us super good feedback, and I always appreciate that, just because I can share it to other people. I'm not on the water every day, but if I have 500 people that are using our baits that report back to me, then it's basically like I'm 500 different people in one, and I can share those experiences with everybody and give you guys the best advice that I can. As always, we always appreciate you guys as customers. Even if you're not customers, we still get a lot of support just from the outside world. We're always working on new stuff. We're gonna end up bringing in different species. We have trout worms, we got salmon eggs, trout eggs. We're always working on something new, and I've really just loved to watch what everyone's doing with the product that we had like a narrow mind for. Me and Taylor wanted to bring back the Slug, basically just fish it weightless Texas rig so we can fish around slop, because we both like to do that. But it's been really cool seeing how you guys are using it, and using it in different ways that we never planned for. Just like the sacks as well, it seems like everyone's using them for whatever species they want, or even holding their gloves in their boat or anything like that. It's super awesome to see you guys using our product and really expanding what it was made for. So as always, appreciate it. And if you guys have any other rigging techniques that you think I missed, message us, email us. A lot of different links. You can find us, website, Instagram, Facebook. I'm always happy to answer. Bubba's always happy to answer. And we're always trying to find better ways to reign supreme.